and there you just have a look or stay for a while and we walk on. So the story is the following. I already mentioned that Hungary was a German ally in the Second World War, but until 1944 the Germans did not interfere into the everyday life of the country. So there was no German occupation, and Hungary was like a small island of peace, at least compared to the other neighboring countries, because there was no German occupation, no bombing, the front lines were far away. So the life of the Jewish part of the population was also safe. There were no ghettos, no David stars on the Jewish people. There were discriminative laws against the Jewish part of the population. They could not act in high positions, and there were limitations, but their life and personal property was safe. That situation immediately started to change as the German troops Germany decided to occupy Hungary in March 1944 militarily, because they knew about the secret talks going on in Turkey, which was a neutral country, to leave the German alliance. The Soviet army was also slowly approaching the eastern border of Hungary, so they decided to occupy Hungary to keep everything under control. And that means also that very soon, that was in March 1944, the Eichmann Commando came to Hungary and started to organize the deportation of the Jewish part of the population. And very shamefully and tragically, the Hungarian authorities usually cooperated, which enabled the Germans to deport many people in a relatively short time, which means that from April 44 to July 44, around 500,000 Hungarian Jews were deported to the Nazi death camps in Poland, and 2/3 of those people, or even more, never returned. Probably almost 400,000 never returned because they were killed in those camps. In July 1944, the governor of Hungary, who was not appointed by the Germans, he was governor also earlier, or sometimes his position is translated as regent. Hungary was a kingdom up to 1946, but without a king since 1918. So instead of the king, we had a regent or governor, and the governor ordered the Germans to stop the deportations. The Germans accepted that very, very reluctantly, but they did, because they desperately needed at least the military cooperation of Hungary in the rapidly deteriorating military situation just a few weeks after D-Day. So the deportations were stopped before the deportation of the Budapest Jewish community happened. So the Budapest Jewish community survived, more or less. I just read statistics that about 65% of the Budapest Jewish community survived. And that means also that there is now the third largest Jewish community of Europe here in Hungary, but it's practically in Budapest because of the reasons I have just mentioned. The Jewish communities in the countryside were almost completely wiped out. So this was the situation in the summer of 44, and then in September 44, the Soviet army has reached the eastern border of the country, and in early October, secret talks were started with the Soviets, and an armistice agreement was signed in Moscow with the Soviets. But that could not take effect because the military coup, which was organized on the Germans on the 15th of October to turn over to the Soviets, did not work. The Germans crushed a very sporadic resistance in a short time, arrested the governor, took him to Germany, and handed over the power to the Hungarian Nazis, who were not too many in numbers, but they were very bad. They were very bad indeed. But they had no power, no time, no means to renew the systematic deportations. So what they have done was that they simply went to some houses in the ghetto, which was set up already in April 1944, and simply took the people from the house, the children, the women, everyone, and shot them into the den. So not from all houses, so there were survivors also in the ghetto, quite many, but the estimates are that in this way 7,000 to 10,000 people were killed, which is still more than enough. And before those people were shot into the Danube, they had to take off their shoes. So the memorial is nothing else but just bronze shoes, not the original ones, bronze shoes at the riverside, right at the river embankment. So it's really a very touching monument without practically any comment. So we are going to see it. We have to go back to the Danube because we can cross the upper quay just at one point, and we will walk down along the river. And on the way we will see the shoes, and then we get to the bus. So let us go now.